Not So Late Show. Tonight features special guest Rae Isla. Also featured on tonight's episode is a special performance of her latest single, Thank You, I'm Sorry, I Love You.
But first, without further ado, please welcome your host, Crypto Kyle.
All right, guys. Welcome to the show. It is episode 4. Thank you for being here. We are excited about our guest, Rae Isla, this evening. But before we get there, guys, send some well wishes to John. John is still sick. And Juan still has cue cards. And Juan says that, what does that say, Juan? It says he can't talk. Yes, I know I promised Juan would be able to talk this week. But he was given doctor's orders not to talk for another week till he reaches a full recovery. Yeah, buddy, I would take that advice. If you can tell now, I'm beginning to lose my voice. I'm not sure if I'm getting sick, but our buddy John is still sick, so send him some best wishes, and we just hope that he feels better. Jumping into the monologue, which unfortunately Carl helped me with. Yes, Carl. Yep, I'm giving you credit, buddy. All right. He's in the in-ear. Looks like a former employee in Massachusetts really wanted to mine his own business. He set up a secret cryptocurrency operation in a school's crawl space, but got charged with fraudulent use of electricity and vandalizing the school. Even the Coast Guard, Investigative Services, and Department of Homeland Security got involved in this wild goose chase. Moral of the story: stick to trading Dogecoin and don't try to turn a school into a crypto farm. Good one, Carl. An alligator was found in a Brooklyn lake on Sunday, likely dumped there as an unwanted pet. Despite the urban legend of alligators in the city's sewer system, experts say it's unlikely due to the system's frigid and toxic environments. The 4-foot reptile was taken to an animal care center and then to the Bronx Zoo for rehabilitation. City officials are investigating the illegal release of the alligator as we speak. And of course, you may have saw 2 million Cosori air fryers were recalled by Atex City due to fire and burn hazards, which is absolutely terrifying. The one thing that I love about air fryers is that it seems that everyone that swears by them always gives you the most ludicrous advice. Like, yeah, I have this air fryer, and not only are we eating healthier, but it makes a leftover pizza slice taste like it's fresh out of the oven. Exactly. Also, restaurants are jumping in on the subscription bandwagon, hoping to entice customers to subscribe to their favorite meals. Chains like Panera and P.F. Chang's are experimenting with unlimited drinks and free delivery, while others are offering a personalized touch, like your favorite appetizer. It seems like a smart move, considering the average American has 6.7 subscriptions in 2022, according to Rocket Money. It's just another way for customers to provide a level of support and love for our offerings, says the chef at Gravitas. But let's be real. If we're going to pay a monthly fee for food, it better come with a personal chef and a live performance by Gordon Ramsay. Zinger, Carl. Zinger. All right, guys, as I said, we have a great show for you this evening. But before we move to the interview portion of the show, I did want to give a special shout out to my friends, Sid, Ronnie, and the rest of the team over at NFA and Vital Toys. They have hooked us up with a special link for patrons of the show to get a discount and a pre-purchase option for their Dr. Bombay release that they are putting out with Snoop Dogg himself. So be sure to check that out. It'll be in the links, or if you're in the live space, you'll be able to see it up top right now. But yes, without further ado, please welcome to the stage my new friend and amazing musician, Rae Isla. Thanks again for being here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here. Obviously, this is the first time you were on the show. Now, is this your first late night themed podcast you've been on?
That's a very specific theme. I want to say tentatively.
Yeah, all right. Obviously, I'm a fan of your music. We've been talking for a few weeks here, actually probably closer to a month and a half, about having you on. And I'd like for people to get to know you, who you are as an artist, not just as a songwriter and a musician, but you as the person. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and just how you came to be and what you do outside of music and where that transformation came to where you went from a lover of music into a creator of music?
Absolutely. Music is definitely the central pillar of my life, but it's not my whole life, although like work is these days in Web3. Yeah, I've been an independent artist, singer-songwriter for 10 years. I have been a musician since I was 3. I played classical cello for 10 years as well. I guess 10 years is about the amount it takes to do something. And then in my teens, I started writing songs and I played a lot of other instruments. I learned how to play piano and that became my central instrument. And then I got the opportunity to go to Berklee College of Music on scholarship. And I realized as much as I love making music, there needed to be more, especially to have a career. So I studied music business with a focus on essentially being an entrepreneur. I think I recognized early on in my teens and when I was studying there that the music industry was not artist friendly. Like I was looking around at the deals my friends were getting into and the available options as an artist in the music industry. And I was like, I don't really like any of it. So as soon as I finished school, I started this hybrid career working for early stage startups and operations and strategy and like whatever, wearing many hats while also gigging and recording and making music. And they ran parallel for a long time. And I was always looking for an opportunity to integrate my like dual professional life. And I just never really found it until I was living in New York. I was playing bigger and bigger shows. I was like working for these companies. And then the pandemic happened and all of it went away. And I was faced with a moment of what's next? Long story short, I left New York. I drove across the country. I slept in my car with my brother, actually. And that trip became the beginning of a new chapter for me. And I won't go into these details yet because this is more on the musical side. But all of this is to say, I identify as both an artist, musician, and entrepreneur and businesswoman. And because of Web3 and because of basically the last year of my life and the opportunities that have been coming, that integration I've been searching for since I was a teenager has finally arrived. And I'm embodying it and I'm living out this new chapter as like my full true self.
That's amazing. Yeah, being a creative person myself, I've experienced some interesting times spent in vehicles, maybe being my primary residence as well. And there's always things that people allude to or find inspiration in. For some people, that's water. I talked about that with a guest we had last time. I'm also inspired by water. But this whole idea of being like a vagabond and not necessarily, even though there's places I call home, but maybe there's more than one and some feel more home than the others do at different times. Do you find yourself in situations like that often?
Oh, absolutely. You're speaking my life.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is another form of integration. Like I think when you get to a place where you're living as your true self, I think wherever you are starts to feel like home. Yeah. And I think for the longest time, like I lived in Boston. I grew up on an island. I lived in Boston. I lived in New York. I lived in Mexico City. Now I'm living in Seattle, although the next 3 months I'm barely going to be here. So I think the challenge is to try to feel a sense of home no matter where you are physically. And I think one of the things that I've done to do that is to really build deep friendships and community in all of the places that I am. And then, of course, building an online community strengthens that initiative. Like you can have these strong relationships no matter where you are and no matter where the other person is, like us right now. I don't even know where you are, but here we are having this conversation.
That's true.
So yeah, I think I definitely feel like a sense of home within myself, and it makes being a vagabond and traveling a lot easier.
Sure.
I don't feel like I'm missing home and I want to get back to somewhere. I don't know where I'm going, and I'm cool with that.
That's awesome. That's very cool. What's funny too, you mentioned knowing people online. When I was on this road trip where we were conversing, it was almost every place I stopped, I knew somebody. And if I wasn't on a mission, I could have stopped and seen all these different people. And then even after I would leave somewhere, I'd go, oh, you know what? Lives there. I should have hit them up. And then, of course, when I tell them I was there, like, you should let us know. We're only 2 hours away, or we were there that day. So it is interesting how with technology now, you can create this more intimate relationship with fans and fellow music likers. What word I use? Music lovers.
I love
because
music likers.
Music likers? I don't know why I said that, but
I don't love your
you
music.
get what I'm saying.
It's okay. I like it.
I just like it. But no, it creates a whole nother avenue. When we were gigging, we had Zanga and MySpace and Pure Volume and all these websites that don't exist anymore, barely or a whisper anymore. But there wasn't a way to really connect with people the way you can now. And people can jump in and follow you on your journey with however much you're willing to share about yourself. I can appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable and be your true self openly, where people can experience that and feel like they know you in a different way than what's been available in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever I think about the way that being a part of the Web3 community and, I don't know, the opportunity to be vulnerable, I feel gratitude. I know what it feels like to feel very disconnected, and I know what it feels like to not be living as my true self. And the combination of the two is excruciating. So I have this like deep sense of gratitude every day to have the opportunity not only to know myself, but to express myself with others in a totally open way. And I'm grateful for it every day.
That's awesome. You walk with a lot of grace, so I can appreciate that.
I try.
It is always easy.
Exactly.
Now, of course, when talking about music styles and as we move into music, who are some of your biggest musical influences, whether stylistically or just in pizzazz?
Yeah, I used to get angry at that question, not going to lie, because
Really?
I had this arrogance as to nobody inspires me. I look within. And I've never actually told anyone that, but I'm being honest now, and I've righted my wrongs. I've seen the light as to how inspired I have been by other artists. I mean, I think there's two parts to it. I get inspired and influenced as a singer-songwriter, which is the core of who I am as an artist. And then I also get inspired in terms of like sonic landscape. Like, how do certain artists take their songs and create a world around them without taking away from the song itself, which is a delicate thing. So I think as a singer-songwriter, I grew up listening to Carole King, Billy Joel, these piano-based songwriters that were in the pop realm. And then in terms of sonic landscape, like, I appreciate any artist who can make like a sonic world using live instruments, because I play a lot of instruments and I like the way they sound. So a couple artists I'm really digging and I listen to their records a lot are Wise Blood. We actually have the same mix engineer, which is cool.
Cool.
There's this artist named Tamino who is Egyptian and he lives somewhere in Northern Europe. I can't remember. I grew up listening to Fleetwood Mac. I think they are the epitome of like folk pop, and they can create this big sound without it sounding overproduced. So I'm always listening to their records. Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac obviously passed away recently, and I felt that one. I felt that one in the gut.
Yeah, I'm a big Lindsey Buckingham fan. Go Insane Live on the 97 DVD is like my favorite song of all time.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
Are you a crate digger? Because that is a very specific recording.
I'm from that era. I just happen to have that collection, but I've been known to crate dig for records for sure. I do like a good record. But yes, that song is very different than the original pop version that was released in the late 80s. If you know the difference between the two, you're a real one, because they're very different.
I love that. I imagine now instead of crate digging, you're NFT digging on the various rooms.
That is true. it takes a lot less work to Google things. Oh, that's funny. So, of course, you debuted way back in 2018. Seems like ages ago, really. But thinking about everything that's happened over the last 5 years, that's really not that long before the world took pause for a minute. Now, with the album No Longer Blue, can you share with us some of the themes and aspirations behind those songs and how maybe that's changed from that to Another Life and even your OpenSea and Sound.xyz releases?
Yeah, it's funny. I think when you release something and then you start working on the next stuff, at least for me, but I found this with other friends who are artists too, you become repelled by the old work. And it might be something that happens naturally as a way of embracing the new work. But like, I haven't talked about No Longer Blue in a while because I've been like running from that demo work sort of thing. But now in retrospect that I've created like several bodies of work since then, I actually realized the themes and the intention behind those songs are still with me. And like all of the songs and the stories and the sonic landscape within all the work is actually pretty connected. So yeah, I was living in New York. I actually like launched Rae Isla as a project in 2017. I had my first show in August of that year at Le Poussin Rouge, which is a club in the city. And I got to work with this producer named Gianluca, who has gone on to work with Lana Del Rey. He made Arlo Parks his first record. He launched a bunch of indie darlings as well as his own music. And we worked on a song called Mexico together. And then I didn't have any more money to pay him. So I was like, if I want to keep making music, I should just do it myself. So I bought some gear, and in our sessions together, I really analyzed like what he did and tried to learn from him. And then ended up producing the other 4 songs on that record by myself in my basement.
Whoa.
Yeah. I had a few other collaborators. I worked with a guitarist from Mexico City named Lito de la Isla, he's in a band called Los Rumeros. So that added sort of some basis for especially the tracks. He was on Mexico. He was on Jesus Was a Woman. And then, yeah, I wrote all the strings parts and played a lot of the instruments, and just like, I was like, I got to make this thing, and I can't pay someone to do it. So I just have to do it myself. I've learned a lot since then. I would have done a lot of things differently. But yeah, that was my first.
You did a great job, because sonically, I would have never guessed that those songs were produced outside of one another.
Thank you. I think that comes down to the mix and master. Really saved the day there. But yeah, I launched that by myself. I don't even know. I probably used some distro platform like AWOL or CD Baby or something like that. Yeah. And that became the beginning of Rae Isla as a narrative and a project. And then I went on to release some other singles, and which became my first record, Another Life, which I learned a lot from putting that out independently as well. And then I spent all of 2021 and 2022 developing, writing, producing, and recording my second album, which is not out yet, but those songs are the basis of my NFT collection. I've started the next cycle of releasing, let's say. How
would you say, and obviously I know there's some differences, but for those who haven't released music before, how would you say the difference has been releasing the traditional method, which wasn't traditional for very long, it's only traditional for 5 or 6 years, of doing the DistroKid CD Baby type release versus the Sound.xyz drops or the OpenSea drops?
Okay, I've been thinking about something lately and talking about this at shows. I wish I knew this sooner, but lately I've been viewing a release as there's the distribution of the thing, which is basically just the business, the mechanics of getting a piece of content to another person. But the releasing of the thing is actually more of a psychological experience that doesn't necessarily require distribution. For example, this is a little heady, but for example, when I play a show, I've started saying to the audience, I am releasing these songs from me to you right now, and nobody will ever hear these versions again. So now I think of a release as like an emotional release of giving this piece of art to somebody else and separate it from the logistics and the distribution. It feels a lot better to put out music, because I think when I was putting out songs on Spotify, I was waiting for that like reward and it wasn't coming. And it wasn't necessarily because of the lack of financial return, but because when you distribute something, you're not releasing something. You're just distributing it. And I think there needs to be some kind of human experience that happens, whether it's a live show or releasing it into the hands of 25 or 50 collectors who are waiting to own it and have it. And that has been missing from music for a long time. And we're starting to find it in Web3. So I guess the biggest difference between putting out an EP on Spotify and releasing an NFT collection is that on Spotify, you don't know who is receiving your offering. In Web3, you do. And it feels incredible. And then, of course, actually making money from it makes all of it make sense for me.
Yeah. No, that's good. I like your thoughts on that. I remember putting songs out on Spotify and being like, okay, cool. Somebody heard that in Philadelphia or whatever, but that was it. There wasn't anything else to it.
Yeah.
So now you can see, like, oh, cool. This person that really likes this song owns 20 Snoop Dogg NFTs. That's cool. I wonder why he connected with me. And then maybe you figure that out down the road in a Discord or in a space, or like, hey, I collect hip hop, but I bought one song and it's from you that's not hip hop. It's cool to make those connections with people and get to see faces or even their perceived identities on the internet as opposed to just a metric, because a metric's pretty boring when you come down to it.
And a metric is the opposite of that. A metric cannot tell you why. And I think the why is the most important thing in the exchange between artist and fan. Why did you make the song? Why did you collect it? Why do we connect? A metric can't tell you that. And I think we've been missing the why for a while. And we're waking up to the fact that it's pretty necessary to have an artistic ecosystem.
Yeah, that's huge. And you saw people start doing this sort of thing before Web3 with Kickstarters, or I know there was other platforms that were similar to that. That's the one I can remember off the top of my head. Indiegogo, that was the other one. But to be able to have people that are invested that have no problem spending that deemed value is on a project in somebody they believe in or have connected with on a person-to-person level, as opposed to just a suggested algorithm, which has its purposes, again, but it's different for those who create, to be able to connect with people that are enjoying the art. It's like a whole nother side of it. It's the good side.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I love that you highlighted the pre-Web3, whatever that means. People have been trying to find the ways to get this more human interaction back into the artistic exchange or the release or whatever. I think so. That intention, whether you're in Web3 or not, or even before Web3, the intention of having deeper relationships was there. But the reason it's so explosive in Web3 is because we finally have the tools to catalyze those intentions. And it's pretty powerful. That's why I imagine you and I spend a lot of time in these various communities making friends and exchanging because of that.
Very cool. Now, I've seen you mentioned in previous interviews that you draw inspiration from your own personal experience, which seems obvious, right? But can you talk about how you infuse those experiences maybe in crafting, not just the song, but maybe the soundscapes that you were talking about, the atmospheric portions of what you're trying to put into the world? Yeah.
Again, almost like separating the making of the song from the crafting of the landscape. On the song side of things, my songs are very personal. Sometimes they come from dreams or they come from moments of despair or whatever. But I've actually started to explore something new, and you'll hear it when the new record comes out, which is embodying the stories of others as if they were my own. I talk about some themes on the new record, which I shouldn't even be talking about this record because it's coming out in a while. It's not like coming out next month. But this System Alpha, I actually tell my mother's stories a little bit on the new record, and I tell the stories of some other women and people that have come into my life as well as my own. And I think I had this realization recently that I was doing that. And I think it's another layer of being a storyteller is to be able to tell the stories of others as if they were your own. I think it's unlocking a new level of craft, let's say.
Yes, that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. It's new for me. I used to like only tell my own stories, I think. But on the sonic landscape side of things, I spend a lot of time on the computer, but generally in my life, I've spent a lot of time in nature, immersed. I'm very much of the earth. I love this planet. I've declared publicly that if given the opportunity to go to Mars, I would turn it down because I am an earth maxi. I want to live and die here and maybe a more pastoral life in the future. But I definitely am inspired by nature. I think, not to be cheesy, but we say that art mimics life. Well, art is basically just a reflection of nature in terms of how it makes us feel and the textures and the vibrancy. Like we're just trying to capture what nature already provides, humans being a part of that. So I find that spending time in nature, I'm soaking in the very landscape that I can then transfer to my production. I know that's a bit like maybe hippy-dippy of me to say, but it's a very real exchange. So I need to spend time in nature. And obviously, if you go online, you can see pretty much everywhere that I collect rocks. And that just became basically another way of integrating my love of nature into my actual like products, essentially.
That's awesome. I don't know if you remember this. They used to sell pet rock.
I don't remember it as in I wasn't there, but I do know this. Yes. I think they sold them. Actually, a fun fact. If you've seen the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yes.
Okay. Not to spoil it for those listening, but there is a scene with rocks. And I saw that ahead of the Academy Awards, because it's nominated for so many awards, that they're actually selling pet rocks as merchandise for, I think, $35.
Oh, wow.
So you can buy one of those rocks for $35, or you can buy one of my rock NFTs for $100. I think mine are more valuable. If you want to go the cheaper route, that's available.
Okay. I like that. That's funny. Now, I know we've been talking about the songwriting process a lot, but do you have any specific rituals or routines when it comes to writing music? You turn all the lights off? Do you not consume anything?
I have a laundry list of exercises and tricks and tips and everything. And I think as much as you can do to be like intentional and present when you're creating and take care of your body and do your vocal warm-ups, the better. I don't have a regimen per se, but I think the thing that I like to do when I sense like a chapter of writing coming, like I'm cool with creating. I'm not someone who tries to write a song every day. I can sense when like I'm pulling on a new thread and I need to give it more attention, and I try to cancel meetings and sit down at the piano more. But the best thing that I do for getting into that zone is displacing myself. And that can be as simple as looking at my calendar and then deleting everything and just like shaking things up and changing what I thought I was going to be doing that day. Taking a last minute trip and being in another physical location, especially like a naturey one, and then coming home. That displacement, for some reason, is really inspiring to me and shakes out the subconscious a little bit. So yeah, if I feel that I have something to say, I try to take a trip if I can. It's been hard with Web3 to be able to do that, but I did just go to Mexico City for about 10 days. And right when I got home, I felt something different. So I sense some new songs coming from that experience.
That's good. That's good for all of us.
Hopefully.
That's awesome. What is some of your favorite live experiences have been? Do you have one? Is there a couple? Either meeting people from the internet or just genuine just interactions with people in a live setting?
I've played a lot of shows in my life. So I'd say I recently moved back. Last year I moved back to Seattle, where I'm from. I had lived in all the other cities I mentioned earlier for almost a decade, which again seems to be my chunk of time to establish things, 10 years. So it's been really nice to reconnect with my roots and see how the city has changed. And I'm very bullish on investing in your local community as much as global community, because I think the two can inform each other. I think you can bring abundance to your local community by having a global mindset, and you can bring intimacy to your global community by having a local mindset. So all of that is to say, I've started to play shows here and build that community out. And actually the most recent shows I did, I did a 2-week residency at this venue called the Crocodile in Seattle, which is an iconic music venue. And it was definitely very exciting to get the opportunity to play there, having just moved back home. So we basically treated it like a mini music festival where we did 2 weeks in a row in the same space. And a lot of people bought tickets for both weekends. So if you met a friend the first weekend, you came the second. You got to build community that way. And I performed both weekends, and I did like an acoustic set and a full band set, and then booked some other amazing artists to play on both weekends as well. And it was euphoric. Everything about it, like the fact that people came both weekends, the team that went into it, the musicians that played, my new band, like it was incredible. I cried multiple times. It was really a testament to like how music can bring things together. Like I think music is the key to anything that we want to make happen culturally or societally. And that was definitely proven at those shows. But on the musical side, I put together a lot of bands in my life. Like I lived in New York, lived in all these different places, and I put together this new band here in Seattle. And I think it's the best one I've ever done. And we're really invested in each other. David, Matt, and Will, those are the players, and myself. Okay. And we've got something good here to the point where I'm actually flying the whole band to South by to play a show, which I've never done.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah, I think this new chapter of live music I'm really excited for because of those 2 shows that we just did in Seattle.
Oh, that's incredible. I can't wait to see you live.
It's fun. I usually wear a cowboy hat. How can you
Cowboy hats are in.
How can you not have fun with that?
That's true. Now, this is a question that most people that are creative in the music industry hate, or the music vein, I should say. What genre would you say that you are?
I am a singer-songwriter at heart. I'm a singer-songwriter at heart. Let's repeat that one.
There we go. Okay.
But I'd say my genre is Americana pop.
I like it. Yeah, I definitely felt the Americana country vibes, but there's definitely, excuse me, I'm losing my voice, pop in there as well. Mostly, I would say what's uncommon in modern country music is any sort of atmospherical type thing. So one thing I really appreciate about your music is it seems very classic, but also very fresh and new, if that makes sense. So how would I explain it? You said you're of the earth. It feels very, when I listen to your music, it sounds very, I feel very present and not like how do I want to word this? I should have wrote this down before I tried to say it.
I love it.
Like if you listen to a Johnny Cash song, for example, it's really hard for a Johnny Cash song to sound new unless there's like a new remix or something. You know what I'm saying? But there's storytelling in a lot of I like old country music. I'm not a big fan of newer country music per se, and I mostly mean like that Florida Georgia line or whatever that stuff is. No offense if you like them, but I like a lot of storytelling, like the Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, a lot of the older stuff. And not that I would pop that on at any second of the day to listen to it, but there's something to be told about music that can tell a story. And there's really only 2 genres that can do it well. And that's the Americana singer-songwriter lane and hip-hop. Those are like the 2 things I feel like you can tell a well-versed story across 2 to 5 minutes. And something with your music that gives it that, I don't know, you're just painting beautiful pictures. It's the only way I can really put it. Painting beautiful pictures. And then in addition to the story that's being told, you do have this soundscape in the background, which just sets the song up. It's beautiful.
I might have to hire you to write my press release because there was a lot of sound bites in there that I would love to have on there that I can't articulate myself. So thank you for that. I can't wait to listen to this podcast and steal your words.
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah, it was a very wordy whatever I was trying to say. But yes, anyways, I like your music. It's great.
Thank you.
What can fans expect from your upcoming release that's so far away? And how do these NFTs tie into what you're building?
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't say that my upcoming release is in the far future because there's a lot happening before then. What's really cool is that, so bringing it back to NFTs and how I'm treating them. I've done a lot of smaller drops just to get music into people's hands and to build relationships and stuff. But the core of my NFT and Web3 community is Rae Isla's Rocks, which I released it a couple months ago, and you can get them in secondary. But it was a 1,000-piece music NFT collection that features 4 songs from that studio album, as well as 111 rocks from my collection, and then a sort of gamified art and utility structure. And the way I'm treating that collection is I really, and this is pun intended, I really wanted to build a rock solid foundation for the next chapter of Rae Isla for the purpose of identifying a large enough but manageable enough group of people who I knew would support me in anything I did and who I could communicate with on a daily basis and reward on a daily basis. So we launched that, we sold out the collection, and now I have a collector base and a community of about 300 or 400 people that have collected my work. And so we are really on this journey together. And that marked the beginning of it. So the record is already incubating in Web3 and within the hands of people who really love the music. And I guess what you can expect from me, in 2 weeks, I'm going on a 2-month Web3 tour where I'm going to Boston, Seattle, Austin, LA, Mexico City, New York, Vancouver, Nashville, and some other places to speak on panels and to perform these songs. So the release has already begun. The distribution, not so much, but the release has begun.
Okay.
If we're talking about the distinction.
Yeah.
So if you want to, I would say if you want to know about the music that's coming out or follow along, start now. Start with the rocks. Check them out. You can listen to the songs for free. You can collect. Yeah. And the power of collecting something is that I can then identify you as someone who's like in for this journey, and it helps me reward you. Like that's the exchange, right? So that's the way to basically join the next couple of years of Rae Isla. And then I'll be doing some smaller drops of songs that aren't necessarily on the record. I'm going to do an NFT collection that coincides with this 2-month tour where you can like collect very affordable collectibles in each of the places I'm going. I will be putting out a song or 2 on Spotify just to reward my Web2 audience that's been sticking with me as well. Yeah. And then I will be releasing another large NFT collection that's the follow-up to The Rocks, which will have the rest of the songs from the record and will serve as basically a launch pad to commercially distribute the record to a wider audience later in the summer.
Oh, that's incredible. Very exciting.
And then
we'll make sure we link all that fun stuff in here.
Yeah, it's a lot of info. I'd say start with The Rocks. The Rocks are the entry point. And then hang out with me on Twitter or Instagram and follow along on the tour. And I'm going to be hitting the road later in the summer to go see everybody and play music. And that's really what I'm looking forward to. The culmination of all of this is to get out there and be IRL.
Yeah, that's awesome. Second to lastly, this is going to be a fun one. What is your favorite song that you've written that is out so far?
That's not a fun one. That's a rude one. No, I'm just
It is pretty rude.
Kidding. That's like asking me which of my rocks is my favorite, and I have hundreds. Actually, I have more songs than rocks if you think about it, but I actually can answer that question right now. I released a song on sound.xyz as an NFT called Thank You, I'm Sorry, I Love You. And it's my most recent release. And when I put it out, first of all, I was live in a Twitter space when we released it. And as soon as it was out, I started sobbing live on Twitter. And
no way.
I don't cry that often. I was embarrassed. I was like, but you can't stop yourself when you're crying. I was crying and sobbing because I think it's probably the most personal song I've ever written. And I remember writing it viscerally. I actually have a video of me writing it. I'm crying. I look like shit. Maybe I'll mint that video or something because it's very emotional. But something changed in me when I released that song a couple weeks ago. I feel it very powerfully. Like I gave a really intimate part of myself away happily. And the response I've gotten to that song has been really powerful. And I've only released it to 50 people, technically. Like, you can listen to it, but there's 50 owners. So I plan to blow that song up. I think it's a really important message. I want the whole world to hear it. So say at the moment, thank you, I'm sorry, I love you is my favorite song.
Awesome. That's one song I have not heard yet. I'm ashamed to say that. I haven't heard that. So now I got to go listen to it. Man, look at me. All right. And lastly now, I believe, what advice would you give to any aspiring musicians, maybe new to wanting to do it on their own, although they wouldn't be alone, just as an independent route, or those who are looking to jump into see what Web3 has to offer?
The first part of the question, the most important thing is the music. If the music isn't ready, and by that I mean if you aren't ready to embody every inch of it and really have a narrative that you can speak about and sing about every day for the rest of your life, then focus on that. Don't focus on anything else. Once the music is there and your narrative is clear and you wholeheartedly believe in what it is you're saying and doing, then you build a business around it. You build an ecosystem around it so that it can be regenerative and you can have a career and pay your bills. I think oftentimes, like, people that are pursuing music, they say, God, why isn't anything working? Like, you have to work on the music and then you have to build a business. And if you're working on the music and you're wondering why those metrics aren't there, it's because you haven't built the business. If you're working on the business and the music isn't resonating with people, it's because you have to work on the music. And so it just breaking them apart a little bit will give you better peace of mind and help eradicate that awful self-doubt that comes from trying to do it all. And I think know your strengths and your weaknesses and try to identify in other people to supplement what maybe you're not able to do on your own. Trust people. I think the music industry has given us a lot of reasons to not trust people. And I think a lot of musicians are traumatized by getting effed over. But trust people. There's a lot of people out there who will help you. In terms of the Web3 stuff, Web3 is one way to build a business and career. It's not the only way. Explore. Sure. Listen to Twitter Spaces. See if you like what you hear. And be relentless. Be relentless. The only way you can fail is by giving up or not trying. So just 100%. Don't stop.
Very good advice from Miss Rae Isla. Thank you so much for being here. Before you go, would it be rude of me to ask for you to share a song with us?
Not at all. I would love to share Thank You, I'm Sorry, I Love You.
All right, we'll give it up for Rae Isla.
Heartache, is it always so? Someone wants to run away and someone can't let go. Oh babe, you're always in my mind. You're the one who comforts me when I get so behind. Thank you for everything that you've done, and I'm sorry if I wasn't enough. I love you and I always will. I know that things got rough and I'm the one who messed it up, but I love you and I always will. Somehow I hope it's not the end and I can be strong for you again. I wanna be the woman that you saw. I hope you're laughing through the tears. A lot can happen in a year. I promise you I'm gonna work so hard. Thank you for everything that you've done, and I'm sorry if I wasn't enough. I love you and I always will. I know that things got rough and I'm the one who messed it up, but I love you and I always will. Maybe we could have been tried to give it all I've got. Now it's the first time in my life that I've said love is not enough. Oh, thank you for everything that you've done, and I'm sorry if I wasn't enough. I love you, and I always will. I know that things got rough, and I'm the one who messed it up, but I love you, and I always will. I always will. I always will. I always will.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rae, for sharing that with us. Absolutely incredible track. I love that stripped down version of the song, and man, absolutely incredible. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very grateful to get to share my story a bit and share some music.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for our show. Thanks for being here. We really appreciate your time, and thanks for just being here with us in the early days. We just are kicking this thing off. We're just getting started. And it's been an interesting start because we've had all kinds of trials come our way. But shout out to my team. Thanks, Zim. Thanks, John. Thanks, Jarrod. Thanks, Juan. Looking forward to being able to talk to you next week, Juan, buddy. And hopefully the whole team will be back as a unit next week, guys. But thank you for being there. Thanks for all your support. And have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you next week, Thursday, 9:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter Spaces or on the podcast. Have a great weekend. Hit it, Juan.